Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. So for those new to the channel, my name's Sean, also known as Film Guru, and I started this channel to do a variety of reviews on TV shows, movies, and a variety of other film content, so thanks for joining me today. Today I'll be looking at Halloween Kills. This was once again directed by David Gordon Green, and was co-written by him and Danny McBride. Returning in this film is Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, Will Patton, and Andi Matichak. The film continues on from the first one. Michael is trapped in Laurie's burning house, and Laurie and her daughter and granddaughter head to the hospital. But not even a burning house can stop the unstoppable Michael Myers. He continues his ritual killings, putting the townspeople in peril. Laurie, along with Tommy Doyle, Lindsay, now adults, and a variety of other townspeople, take matters into their own hands and create a vigilante mob to hunt down Michael and put a stop to his reign of terror once and for all. There's a lot of hate around this film, and I don't quite understand why. I'm probably one of the very few people who actually enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. I was really impressed with it, and I thought it was a really great sequel. And in a lot of ways, I think it was better than the first one. And I know that's saying a lot, and there'll be a lot of people who disagree with that, and that's fine. But there was just something about this film that I really connected to. I like that it took place straight after the first one, much like the original Halloween and Halloween 2. And Laurie is once again in the hospital, and she's in the hospital for pretty much all of the film. So by doing that, it allows them to shift focus onto characters that sort of disappeared or didn't have as much screen time as that we thought they should have had in the first film. It's more focused on Judy Greer's Karen and Andi Matichak's Allison, and how they join this mob, join this group, and really want to put an end to Michael Myers. And I kind of like that. I like the shift of focus. I like that Laurie was still involved in it, but it wasn't so focused on her. And I kind of like that. I like the different direction that they took. This was a very visually striking film, I think, in a lot of ways. It was very violent, but I like the kills. I like the ideas in them. I like that they were trying something different and trying to make these sort of scenes a bit more impactful, more interesting than what we have seen previously in the Halloween franchise. I like that they brought back characters that we knew from the original film, you know, such as Tommy Doyle and Lindsay and Sheriff Brackett and a variety of other people. I thought that was really great. It was sort of a silent nod to the original film, and it's sort of combining all of this into one film, like paying tribute to the original movies, but also doing their own thing. And there's a variety of sequences and things that David Gordon Green put into this film that sort of is reminiscent of the other sequels that we got, the other better sequels that we got of the Halloween franchise, before the Rob Zombie movies, of course. And I thought this was an interesting way to go. I think it was really starting to create its own thing. I think the concept in this film is really good. There's some really great ideas, and the direction that they're taking the series I think is really great. And I look forward to seeing what they do with the third one, which takes place 4 years after this one. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in regards to that. So ultimately, I'm going to do, this is going to turn into a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the film, go and see it and stop watching this video and come back, or hopefully you'll come back. If not, doesn't matter. But just ultimately, I'm going to start to get into spoilers and talk about particular things that reveal certain information that you might not want to know. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it now. So here are the spoilers. Here's what I want to get into. So I think what the film does really well is we get to learn more about Hawkins, taken back to 1978, and we get to see him as a young deputy, and him and the other deputies trying to track down Michael Myers. And what transpires there ultimately affects him later in life, where he comes face to face with Michael, who's got one of his deputy friends by the neck, and he tries to shoot him and ultimately only hurts his friend. And he feels guilty for it. And it sort of makes him feel like he's responsible and that he's the one who needs to kill Michael once and for all. In this sequence is a great tribute to Donald Pleasence's Dr. Loomis. Just how we get a glimpse of him, it's another actor playing him, but in a simple, small way, and it feels very effective and reminiscent of the original movie. And I really loved that. I thought there was a great way to pay tribute to this really great character played by this really talented actor who they hadn't always treated the character very well in the series, but I really love what they did here. I thought that was really, really great. It sort of starts to talk more about why he might have killed his sister too, and why he was staring out the window in his particular, out the window in her house, and that maybe he was actually staring his own reflection, looking in deep within himself. I thought that was kind of interesting. There's a real playfulness to Myers here the way he kills people, the way he sets up bodies, the way he's always thinking and creating things. And there's something Will Patton's character, Hawkins, says, is that he's a 6-year-old boy with the strength of a man. And that's kind of what he is. He's kind of playful and finds all of this a bit of a game and a bit of a joke in a way. Even though he does enjoy killing people, it sort of shows him in a different light. And I thought that was really interesting because we haven't really seen him sort of playful like that before. Only glimpses through the original series, but nothing quite like this, and I thought that was really great. There's a number of sequences I really liked. There's a hospital sequence where Tommy Doyle and Laurie get everybody in the town riled up, and they see this guy who they think is Michael, but it turns out not to be, and they chase him through the hospital. They harass him, they come after him in this angry, violent mob, and a lot of people get hurt, and he ultimately kills himself because he doesn't want to be attacked by them jumping out the window. And it just shows the impact of mob mentality and how they're forcing this idea onto people, and it creates chaos and violence. And it's exactly what Michael Myers wants. He wants to create chaos, and he wants to create violence, and he wants to fill the town with fear. And they're playing on that fear. So he's really, as Laurie Strode says, this is really his masterpiece. This is him crafting his own spectacular, gory, violent masterpiece. And I kind of like that we return to Myers' house. There's 2 people living in that house now, and it's like when Michael returns, he kills them and he wants his house back, and the impact of that. And then there's a great sequence that happens there where Alison, her boyfriend, and her father go to the Myers house thinking they can stop him and be the ones to kill Michael, and it doesn't go according to plan. There's a lot of violence inflicted. And there's just sequences in this where she's ultimately nearly stabbed and the mother appears with a pitchfork. And it's like she's luring Michael out of the house. She has his mask and she runs off and he starts to chase her. And then she lures him into a trap where he's set upon a group of townspeople. And they shoot him, they stab him, they beat him. And in this moment, I really felt bad for Michael, which is weird because you've seen him kill all these people, but I felt really bad for him. The way they treated him, even though he was this violent and psychotic killer. But of course, this is the moment where it shows that Michael isn't a man, really. He transcended being a man and a killer into some sort of mythical boogeyman. He becomes the literal boogeyman in this movie. That thing you fear in the dark, that thing you're scared of that might be hiding under your bed, that thing that lurks and waits for you, is ready to lunge at you in the darkness. He transcends so much. And he becomes such a myth. And I think this is a really fantastic idea. This is something within it. He ultimately rises up and kills the townspeople. And the ending is quite surprising where, as far as I could tell, he kills Karen. And I kind of like that. There was an impact to that. There was a power to that. Because he's created this mythical concept. This is something that they really work with. This is something I think the film should have been much more encompassed. There should have been much more focused on this idea of transcendence, because it's a big point in the trailer and it serves a purpose in the movie, but I just wish there was a bit more of it because I found this the most interesting, engaging part of the movie. And the film kind of just ends. It ends with this idea of going into the third, but it just sort of ends at this point. And I think it was really well crafted and I love the ending. I love Michael's become this myth again. Like they talk about him being the boogeyman, especially in the original film, and the sequels that followed. But this is where they really show him as his mythical creature, this thing that can't be stopped. The more he kills, the more he transcends, the more stronger he becomes. That he creates his own fear in the town, not only by killing people, but by existing, by being there, by inflicting the violence he inflicts on the town. He infects the town in a way. He's like this sort of disease, he's like this sort of growth that is just there and you need to cut it out to stop it. And it just engulfs everything around it. He just is this force. I thought this concept was so great. I just was so impressed by what David Gordon Green did, the writing, the characters, and where he took the story and where the story's headed. I like that we shifted focus to other characters. I even got to the point of enjoying this more in the aspect that in the previous film, there's so many characters I just didn't care about. They were annoying, badly written. I didn't care if they died or not. This sort of made up for it with the return of Lindsay and Tommy and a variety of other characters from the original film. The nurse that was in the first movie when Michael first escaped. It sort of feels a real connection to the original film, to 1978, and it really feels like they're making an effort to bring these characters back and have them serve a purpose in the film. And I think this is really great. There's scenes that are reminiscent of the first film in a lot of ways, especially with these original characters, and ultimately the deaths of some of these characters and how they do that. There's a sequence in a car when Michael's on the roof and the old nurse is shooting at him and can't sort of get him, and then it sort of ends up turning into the same thing that happened to her in the original film, except she gets killed. And they introduce particular characters that have been affected by things. I think it's a really creative and interesting direction to take it. It's kind of refreshing. It's taking something that we've seen 1,000 times in a long series of 9-10 movies and trying to breathe new life into it. And I think that's what this film accomplishes. It takes its time with characters. It's more interested in building story and characters themselves than just showing violence and killing. The first one had this really great simplicity to it. Michael escaping, going after Laurie, and them ultimately coming face to face. Like all good sequels, this sort of has a bit more depth. It sort of tries to help characters and situations grow a bit more than what we did see in the previous film, which I really loved. And there's this idea in it too. Throughout the original films, it was like Michael's always after Laurie. They were brother and sister, all this sort of stuff. They've taken all of that out. And now this one sort of looks at the idea that maybe he isn't out to get her at all. And maybe she's convinced herself that he's coming for her, but he's not really. He just wants to go home. That's all he really wants to do in the movie. He's going back to his home, and everybody keeps coming there after him. And they keep coming after him, and he defends himself. In the strangest of ways, you actually feel for Michael in this film. Well, I did anyway, and I thought he was one of the best things about the movie. And even though he didn't say anything, and even though they didn't try and give him a backstory and a reason why he's doing it, there was a bit more depth to him than we usually saw. And I thought this was really, really good. This to me is one of the best horrors I've seen this year. It's going on my top 10. I was really impressed with it. I like what David Gordon Green did with it. I like the evolution of characters and story. I thought all the actors did a really good job. There was just something really interesting and powerful about this. I'm all about concepts, ideas, and stories, and I think this really encompasses so much of stuff I really enjoy. I look forward to the third. I'd like to see what they do with that. I was just really thoroughly impressed with this. So if I was pushed to have to give a score, I'd give this 4 out of 5. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe at the bottom. Follow me on Facebook and Letterboxd. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.